Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear North Shore Unitarian congregation. Happy birthday to you. And many more. It's 54 years as of this past Friday of the North Shore Unitarian congregation being in existence. So happy birthday to you. We kindle this flame as a symbol of our gathering. May the light of understanding illuminate our darkness, and may the warmth of sharing bring us peace. I swear I meant to get a cupcake, and my hand slipped at the last minute, and I wound up getting a whole cake, of which this is all that remains. So I can only say I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that this last piece of cake is as well. I'm going to set it down just a second. Well, welcome to our Sunday services. My name is Rev Ron Phares, and this is the North Shore Unitarian Congregation Sunday service. Recently, we've been going through a bit of a conflict, and we're moving through that, and it's actually kind of exciting in some ways. But as in any conflict, there are times when we rub up against one another and experience some ouch, some pain. We either cause it or receive it, and sometimes both. So it might be an appropriate moment to reflect on forgiveness. This week we're going to think about how to forgive, and next week we'll think about how to ask or seek forgiveness. And interestingly enough, this particular sermon, was set to be delivered more or less a year ago on this Sunday. And it just, out of a happenstance of scheduling, fell on this Sunday a year later. This was the Sunday that we lost last year when we canceled church on Sunday morning due to the arrival of COVID on the North Shore. So there's an interesting synchronicity to that, and it just so happens that it comes at an appropriate time in the life of our congregation. So there's some serendipity at work here, and I don't think we should ignore serendipity. There is meaning there. So basically, what we're thinking about today is how to forgive. When we cause harm to someone that we care about, or even someone we don't know, it's instinctive to seek forgiveness, right? It hurts knowing that we've hurt someone. And so seeking forgiveness kind of feels instinctive. But when we've been hurt ourselves, it is equally instinctive to, rather than seek forgiving, but to seek to hurt back. So in that way, seeking forgiveness is quite in line, or I should say seeking to forgive and then not doing it, seeking to hurt rather than forgive, is quite in line with our habits of reactivity. Seeking forgiveness is also in line with our habits of reactivity. And when we seek forgiveness, that's a good impulse. But granting forgiveness runs counter to our normal habits of reactivity. So it's worth recalling that forgiveness has primarily to do with you. Not the person forgiving you, and not the person that you are forgiving. It has everything to do with what's going on with you. The primary action happens here, in your heart. Forgiveness is a cooling or a total release of emotional energy regarding what was once an offense that engaged our emotions. When you are no longer emotionally hooked or ruffled or tugged at by some event or person, that's when you know you have forgiven them. And thereby is paved the road to reconciliation. And now parties that were estranged by conflict can move towards harmonious and productive relations. That is easier said than done, though, right? But it needs to be said. And it's likely easier to do after you've said it. That's called intention setting. Practice follows intention, and outcome is measured by intention. And so first we say it. Look, it's not that any of this that I'm going to present today is revolutionary, and in fact, rather it's that it bears constant recentering. So it's not new information, but it's recentering information that we all probably already know. But it's this kind of move that requires, and by that I mean forgiving, requires a commitment and requires committing to it as a practice and then recommitting again. And then recommitting again. It takes practice and practice and practice. So to fortify our intention, I've asked our Service Associate Karen Funt to provide us with some additional wisdom. So I've asked Karen if she could tell us about an insight or some insights concerning forgiveness that have made a difference in her life. Karen?
Good morning. My name is Karen Funt, and I'm the Sunday Service Associate for today. Of course, this is always a wonderful anniversary for our community, the 54th anniversary of North Shore Unitarian. And as far as I can remember, incredible as it is, there are only a few of us charter members left. They are B. Egger, Russ Scott, David Clark, and myself. So this is a very amazing source of continuity for all of us, but particularly for us who have been here for so many years. Today, I'd like to explore the actions of forgiving and the making of something called truth. I begin with Anne Lamott. The lesson here in life is that there is no fix. There is, however, forgiveness. To forgive ourselves and others constantly is necessary. Not only is everyone screwed up, but everyone screws up. And now I turn to the wonderful essayist, environmentalist, feminist writer Rebecca Solnit. This is from The Faraway Nearby. The ancient Greeks used a word, sungnom, that means to understand, to sympathize, to forgive, to pardon. A word that refuses to distinguish between thinking and feeling. It proposes that understanding is the beginning of forgiveness, or the thing itself. The scope of this word implies that it takes empathy to try to understand, and understanding to reach the empathy that is forgiveness, that they proceed together, helping each other along the way, or that they were never separate in the first place. We use the word understanding that way in English, and a request for forgiveness often asks for understanding. End quote. In other words, we need to seek understanding of ourselves and others in order to imagine what forgiveness in any circumstances might mean. That in turn has to begin the process of thinking what the truth is in any action. And truth is an even more elusive idea than forgiveness. We need to attend to the fact that calling something true is an interpretation in itself, that people of goodwill often legitimately disagree on a given quote-unquote fact or a given quote-unquote truth. And now to the notion of truth with a capital T, and the vexing and irresolvable issue that our notions of what is quote true often are in conflict with other people's representations of what they feel are true. This is the quandary of liberalism, that we will never come to resolution of what counts as true for the questions that really count. As Leonard Cohen says, we cannot find the truth of this or any other matter. I return, as I regularly do, to Nietzsche for thinking of the hard questions. Quote, truths are illusion which we have forgotten are illusions. They are metaphors that have become worn out and have been drained of sensuous force. Coins which have lost their embossing and are now considered as metal and no longer as coins. The philosopher Marie Ruti interprets this idea. This way of looking at things reveals that truths are metaphors that have over time become so familiar to us that we no longer recognize them as such, but rather take them to express quote-unquote reality in its pure and unadulterated form. That is, more or less every truth of ours was once a metaphor, a representation, a symbol, a simile, a fiction, a fable, invented by the human mind. I am positing that most of our deeply held and taken for granted beliefs about the world are habits of thought that arise from centuries of human attempts to sort through it. End quote. My thought for today is that we will never formulate what we think of as truth or facts in the same language or with the same tone that even our nearest and dearest do. In the end, we must, as Unitarians, forgive, recognize, and respect each other for being different from each other. It is a mighty ask. As Ursula Le Guin said, we're each of us alone, to be sure. What can you do but hold your hand out in the dark? Thank you.
Okay, the whole community needs to get involved with this. We need singers and we need percussionists. You can be both, but at least choose one, will you? It goes like this. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Try with me. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Mama and Papa are fighting like snakes. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Baby is a crying like her heart will break. Open the window. Neighbors lock their doors, build fences so high. Can't see what's to discover on the other side. Here we go, percussionists. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly. Open the window, let the dove fly. Borders round countries and borders round the sky. The only borders that close you are the borders round your mind. Some people have more, some people have none. But what's the use of money if your heart's gone numb? Let's do it again. Here we go. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in. This big old world is in a great mess. Open the window, find peace and rest. Open the window, children. Open the window now. Open the window, children. Last time. Open the window, let the dove fly in. Open the window, let the dove fly in.
When we are hurt by another, our first impulse is often to lash back. Either that or we sweep it under the rug, and in either case, both of those impulses are just wanting to get the pain over. Of course, it sort of puts the cart before the horse. It's just that we want it so much, we often seek to reconcile without actually forgiving. In that case, the issue has been buried deep and not burned away. And it will emerge as a weapon or a trigger in some reactive rampage in the future. By reconciling without truly forgiving, that's not the path of the spiritual seeker, the ethical explorer, or those who know that transformation is not a one-time, permanent fix. Spiritual seekers, ethical explorers, and true transformers know that staying on the path takes work and courage. The reward for staying on this path, the reward for integrity in forgiveness, the reward for integrity in forgiveness, the reward for dissolving the hook before declaring the peace is non-reactivity and ease, and ultimately freedom. The ability to forgive is a practice that grants us freedom because it unhooks us from reactivity. And this is perhaps the only and certainly the most profound freedom that we have available to us. We are inherently reactive. Reactivity serves a survival function most of the time, some of the time. Perhaps not as much as it once did. And now the ability to be conscious in the face of reactivity, that is also something that we are all born with. Thus, we both earn and inherit our dignity as we wrestle with our reactivity. We are born with both the need and tools for forgiveness. For forgiving. Now that we are born with it means that it's granted by grace, but that it is granted by grace does not mean we do not need to prepare for it, to practice it, to become proficient at it. Forgiving takes intention. It takes work to let go. And letting go, it turns out, is actually a really important concept in forgiveness, as I understand it. And this was sort of brought home to me in seminary, where, I went to a Presbyterian seminary, so we had to do a bit of Bible work. So I now know which gospel is my favorite. It's the one that is the first constructed and written, has the least amount of supernatural characteristics in it, and is the most easily seen in a sort of humanist light, and that's the Gospel of Mark. So in that gospel, Jesus acknowledges that the afflicted that he meets are forgiven. They're thereby healed of various maladies. But this is where language becomes important and grammar becomes important. And perhaps it is why we had to, learn biblical Greek, or at least learn it for a semester. You see, it was not Jesus who forgave, but Jesus who recognized their inherent forgiveness. He did not say, I forgive you. He said, you are forgiven. In doing that, he was simply recognizing the inherent worth and dignity, you might say, of the people that he was healing. He simply pointed out that they were forgiven. And the phrase that the Nazarene used to convey this truth, well, the word was affiente. Affiente. Which means you are let go of. So forgiveness is akin to letting go. This sounds quite similar to understanding forgiveness as a cooling of an emotional hook. Letting go is the state of the divine, a spiritual state of mind that is ours if we're willing to do the work. It turns out that it is work to let go. That seems counterintuitive, but it's true. The question is how? Letting go sounds easy. Jesus made it look easy, but then he walked on water. So it may be that forgiveness is a miracle on par with casting out demons. Shall we do some exorcism?
Do not leave your cares at the door. Do not leave them there when you come into this place. Be open to forgiveness and transformation. Come on in. You are welcome here. And do not leave your cares at the door. Oh, bring your pain and sorrow and joy. There's a place for them upon the altar of life. Be open to forgiveness and transformation. Come on in, you are welcome here. And do not leave your cares at the door. This is a place of losing and finding a way upon the winding road. Meeting and parting, stumbling and starting over. Forgiveness and transformation. Come on in, you are welcome in. Come in and do not leave your cares at the door. Amen. Amen. Amen.
So here's the thing we've all done. You get sideways with someone or someone harms you in some way, and you being the attentive Unitarian Universalist of integrity that you are, apologize in the first case, and also in either case you inform them, probably even if you were the one to cause offense, that you forgive them. You know it's the right thing to do, and you just want to get back to normal. So you're like, you know what? It's okay. I forgive you. And they say thank you. But then you're like, and they're like, what? And you're like, and they're like, what? And you're like, I forgave you. I know. Thanks. So what? You forgave me. And then you go, well, aren't you going to apologize? So, I don't know. I've been there anyway. Forgiving someone before they apologize and being irritated that they haven't. Maybe you've been there as well, but, you know, if you're in need of an apology, you haven't let go of that emotional hook. You have, in fact, not forgiven them at all. You have not comprehended their inherent humanness, their inherent imperfection, screwed upness, as Anne Lamott said, or your own. And you have not used that comprehension as a tool to pry the emotional hook out of your side, or at least untie the string that yanks on it. You're not free. You're not free from reactivity. You are not freed into responsibility. You're just not free. And worse yet, you have made your freedom contingent, not on your own heart even, not on your own work, but on the actions of somebody else. You are now captive to not only your own reactivity, but another's reactivity. And this is no bueno. The question is actually just one of method. How to untie the knot that's causing that hook to pull, or even to take the hook out. How are we able to cool down? How are we able to let go? How are we able to find ourselves in a state of forgiveness? I find that there are a few useful tools. Sometimes I even use them. that help us do the work of forgiveness. Now, we've actually covered some of them as a congregation. There's the practice of, oh, do you remember that? Let my life unfold like a river filled with happy surprise or something like that from John O'Donohue and filled with O's. Oh, unattached to expectation. Oh, as a practice. There's the practice of cultivating the healthy sense of, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have to know. That grants you some space. It opens up your being to receptivity and faith. I don't know is a move or is a practice of faith. There's also the practice of I am of thee and you are of me. Interdependence means choice is limited and cooperative. Agency is cooperative. So all those things can help. But I think a really important question that puts us on the path toward actually letting go is this question. Ask yourself this question. What am I afraid of? Now, each of those practices have something in common. Each, be it, oh, I don't know, I am of thee, you are of me, and what am I afraid of? Each of those takes us outside of the mechanisms of our reactivity. Takes us outside of our automatic response state and actually takes us into freedom. And I think the last question may cut to the heart of it. Ultimately, it is our reactivity that prevents forgiveness from being felt. And fear is at the root of reactivity. So what am I afraid of? Imagine being angry at someone, perhaps someone who has apologized, and asking yourself, what am I afraid of right now? In the midst of your anger, ask, what am I afraid of right now? I'll wager that changes your chemistry. So these are ways to remove the thorn, but it may do to press them some, run it through a scenario. So, content warning, I'm about to tell you a tragic story. I have a high school acquaintance who is now a Facebook friend. A few years ago, she posted that it was the anniversary of the car wreck that killed her brother and sister-in-law. They were killed by a 16-year-old, high on methamphetamine, driving a stolen car over 100 miles per hour. They had 3 kids. Not in the accident, but they had 3 kids. They left 3 kids behind, none of whom were in even their teens. How does that pain ever cool? How do you forgive that kid? if it is possible. It may be, especially in tragedies like this, that there is some deep understanding to be had. Life is ever precarious, and while it is absolutely necessary, love is dangerous. All love ends painfully. That's a guarantee. Death or circumstance or change. There's no way around it. The fear of losing love or the fear of not being worthy of love, the fear of inadequacy can be more frightening and unacceptable than death. Or maybe that's even what the fear of death really is. And yet it is a fear that is also bound to come true. We will lose love. But in the face of that certainty, we have a choice. How do you want to live? You could ignore this thorn in your paw and everyone else's paw, this fear, and walk around irritable and reactive. Or you can comprehend that we all have this thorn, this inborn fear of losing love we have, or not being worthy of the love we need. I believe that in that comprehension is a trove of forgiveness. The comprehension that we are all simply afraid of losing love, even more than death. And that this fear is the root of reactivity and is the seedbed of freedom. That comprehension, that our inherent fear of losing love or being unloved is the root of reactivity, is itself the root of forgiveness, and finally, with practice, freedom. Why was he on meth? What circumstances led him to steal a car? What hole was he filling? What hole was he feeling? What love was he afraid to lose? What love was he replacing? What love did he not feel worthy of? Why was he not free? These questions do not excuse the boy. But in some ways, as I said before, it's not about the boy, it's about us. Forgiving is about us. And these questions shift our perspective. And in doing that, perhaps we are offered some relief from our fears come true.
I dig till my shovel tells a secret. Swear to the earth that I will keep it. Brush off the dirt and let my change of heart occur. Sold soon after the appraisal, the hammer struck the auction table louder than anything I've ever heard. Fall lands tremble underneath my glass house, but I put it out of my mind long enough to call it courage, to live without a lifeline. I bend the definition of faith to exonerate my blind eye. Meanwhile, my family's taking shelter. The sparks and the fire down the wire. Countdown begins until the diamond light gives in. The echo is wide as the equator. Travels through all the built-up anger, too late to pull itself together. Fallings tremble underneath my glass house, but I put it out of my mind long enough to call it courage to live without a lifeline. I'll bend the definition of faith to exonerate my blind eye till the siren song sings. There was an earthquake. There was an avalanche of change. We were so afraid. We cried ourselves a hurricane. There were floods, tidal waves over us. We folded our hands and prayed. Like a domino, that's why your fires grow and grow until a brand new world takes shape. Fallings tremble underneath my glass house, but I put it out of my mind long enough to call it courage to live without a lifeline. I'll bend the definition of faith to exonerate my blind eye till the siren sound I'm safe. Until the siren sound I'm safe. Until the siren song I'm safe.
All right. Enough words. Let's do a little exercise for this third bit. Okay. Get your fingers ready and loosened up if you are able to do so. So, hold out your hand, left or right, whichever. Maybe not your dominant hand. Hold it out and give a thumbs up. And then take your other hand, wrap it up, and squeeze it as hard as you can. And don't stop squeezing it. As a matter of fact, you should increase the pressure for as long as I'm talking. All right? This is what anger is. This is the hook. You can't drive or write or play piano like this. You can't hug anyone like this. You're incapacitated by your anger. Keep squeezing it really hard. Really hard. That's anger. All right? Now, without opening your squeezing hand, but just releasing the pressure a little bit, let the offensive thumb come free. But the clutching hand of vengeance is still warped and useless. it's just going to stay this way. Without intention, my hand will remain a fist. So this is the impulse to forgive, but not the work of forgiveness. Now, if you have not done so already, open your fingers wide. Wriggle them. That's the work of forgiveness. That's the intention come into being. We've regained our use with our intention. Now they're free to move. That is what forgiveness yields. Now you are free to drive or ride a bike, play tennis, shake hands, hug, or make some music. Would you join me in a spirit of prayer? This morning, we find ourselves offering this prayer in the traditional homeland for generations upon generations of the Tsleil-Waututh and Squamish peoples. We recognize our debt to that ancestry and pray that it calls us into a deeper responsibility with this beautiful green piece of earth. And from that point, we look up and thank you, sun. We thank you for your energy, your life-giving power, your light, your warmth, the flowers. We thank you, earth, for that cooperation with the sun and the water that produces the flowers. We thank you for holding us close, giving us our bodies, our senses. We thank you for gravity and water. We thank you for life. Thank you for showing us how to move. We thank you, air, for each breath, for carrying our spirit. And as we inhale, We let you take us further into our spirit. The place where we stand today stands in balance. It is the equinox, and under that celestial wisdom may we find some counsel of cyclicality, of balance, of tension, of leaving dark days behind and moving into a brighter, clearer future. We pray for the victims of violence in Atlanta, of race-based violence in Atlanta, Georgia, knowing that the sickness that originated that damage is not isolated, that it is ours to stand in opposition to. May the families of the stricken find peace someday. And may the culture that abets such violence find its way to a brighter day. May we all hold each other in love and accountability. May we hold our neighbors in love and accountability. May we hold our neighboring neighborhoods in love and accountability, so that this sort of violence never takes root. There is lots of heartbreak all around us. May we hold each other in solidarity and love. May we support one another, encourage one another, forgive one another, and seek forgiveness. We have a lot of work to do. And so we ask for strength and clarity and courage and kindness. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Shanti Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti
We are the North Shore Unitarian congregation, and our mission is to empower people to live with greater depth, meaning, and purpose. If this is one of your first times participating in our Sunday service from home, we'd love for you to say hi in the comments section. You'll find a warm welcome, I'm sure. In this community, we celebrate people from all walks of life. No matter how you experience the sacred, no matter who you are or who you love, we hope you do feel welcome. We are a busy congregation with a lot going on, so please read your weekly e-bulletin. If you haven't already subscribed to the e-bulletin, you can do that by clicking on the link in the YouTube description or by reaching out to our administrator, whose contact information is on our website. This month, the outreach is for our partner church in Hungary, and it's in the town of Hódmezővásárhely. I hope I have that pronunciation. You can text your contribution with the instructions on the screen to the number, and please indicate whether it's for outreach or for general funds. Thank you.
We extinguish this flame, but carry with us the light of vision and the warmth of hope. The world calls us to live with depth, meaning, and purpose. We go forth with courage and love. And now, if you would please rise in body or spirit to receive the benediction. You have come here with your spirit and your intention and created this house where forgiveness can be practiced. So don't let that opportunity slip by. Practice it in your home and in our church community and in the world in which you operate. Regain your freedom. Remove the hook. Ask yourself, what are you afraid of? Let us go in peace, and let us go singing.